Journey to the river. I awoke, taking a look at the time, only to discover it was 11:22 a.m. Breakfast was at 8 a.m. Oh my god, I've missed the entire morning. A little refresh on my phone and the time changed to 7:22. What is happening? This day we had begun making landscapes. We brought little pieces of cloth from home, a day dedicated to creating a material landscape for ourselves, an offering to ourselves, the hummingbirds, and a potentiality of matter to create a living altar, a reflection of the journey we've chosen to discover here in the jungles, cloud forests, mountains, rivers, and rainforests of Ecuador. The landscape theme is really showing itself in my life at the moment. Whether through my studies with this mentor or that, the landscapes within keep showing up. Throughout the various different aspects of perception, I'm beginning to understand the concept of exploring the landscape within one's own heart, and all the offerings it has available. I have just a glimpse of how these spaces are created and alive within us. By following the call of the heart, the little niggles and nudges deep inside, I'm learning to trust my soul to know the way. By recognizing and trusting my very own self, I can allow an opportunity for my heart to explore these most beautifully wild and sacred spaces existing within. For my landscape altar, I chose to embark on a journey. This makes me chuckle even as I write this. I decide that instead of simply gluing sequins onto my silk cloth, I would sew them. My seamstress knowledge is incredibly basic. I observed my choices and see how I chose this journey of preparing my landscape on the road less traveled. We began working on these cloths around 10 in the morning, and by 5 p.m. I still had not finished even the body of my hummingbird. It's truly comical how I choose these potentially more difficult paths for myself. I shared with a few in the beginning stages of my design, and all comments mentioned it looked like a vulva, vagina, or the like. I couldn't help but agree. Little did I know how it would become a theme for the following day. The journey to the river was another exploration of the organic existence breathing inside me. As I walked along the very muddy, slippery, challenging path, I stepped further into each moment. I hung near the back. I find I like to linger, so the back felt like the best to embark on this adventure. As I navigated the uphill mudslides, I kept noticing the most beautiful orange and yellow flowers sprinkled about on the ground along the path. The path literally being cut before us with the machete. Forge your own path, right? Well, we did. Eventually, I picked up one of these gorgeous flowers, and I mentioned how sensuous and sexy I thought it appeared. A friend just up ahead agreed. Vulva, she says. In that moment, I vowed to carry this tiny little flowering vagina safely to the river and back. This became a reflection of my own pussy story, the story of uncovering and shedding the long-forgotten memories of childhood. Until I was 36 or possibly 37, I had few childhood memories. I never really understood why this was until the memories started rolling in. From the early age of 2 or 3, I was molested, sexually and physically abused. Furthermore, I was silenced by my greatest protectors, my parents. It wasn't until my late 30s that I was somatically safe enough to accept this information into my field, for any earlier these stories likely would have completely destroyed me. And nearly did, but that is for another chapter. I offer gratitude to the human psyche and its knowing, its ability to hold what we cannot face until we are ready in mind and body to receive the information we can't sooner witness. So, flower in hand, I continued through the jungle. slipping and sliding, at times pretending my feet were skis as I squatted and slid down the muddy slopes, initiated with every trudge, glide, and fall into the thick, rich jungle soil. Not once did I let my tiny vagina fall to the ground. Later, I picked up another. The second flower would become my offering to the river, to the mother of the water, for holding these memories, for all of the women who have painfully lost autonomy over our own bodies, voices, and power. An offering in deep appreciation for the mother of the water to be there at the end of our journey, to wash it all away. The purifying ceremony began long before we lit the candles. It began the moment I said yes to this calling in my heart, that I knew I had to be here in the jungle. Each of us selected candles to offer to the river, to light in lieu of whatever we saw fit. We selected the candles from the bag randomly. Before choosing mine, the voice of me in my head said, "Yours will be yellow, just like before." And of course, yellow it was. Arriving at the river, I placed my bag down and gave myself a moment to take it in. Whoa, we made it. I absorbed through my senses the feelings and textures of the stones. I listened to the sound of the moving river. As parts of my soul, I heard the birds singing and watched trees nearby rustling in the wind. As our cleansing smoke was prepared, I offered tobacco to the mother of the water, placed my flowers in a hole in the rocks that appeared as if it had been waiting for my contribution. We cleansed ourselves with the Palo Santo smoke and lit our candles. I placed the flower and my candle in the divinely orchestrated space waiting for me by the Rio Blanco, mother of the water, waiting for me to come back home, fully prepared to exorcise me of these soon dead and buried stories. I felt the call from the water. The first to remove the entirety of my clothes, I hung them on a nearby tree. Did they look so heavenly draping there? I took a deep breath. Mildly uncomfortable and now completely naked, I entered the chilly, moving waters. I could feel heavy in my soul the healing, sacred waters driving the stagnant, sexual energy from my being, disrupting the cells in my skin and penetrating through every layer of my existence, swiftly making their passage of transmutation down the flowing river, washing away all of the offenders and abusers of my body, washing away the silence and self-betrayal, an actuality designed to protect me from further interference from those whom I was innately attached. I felt my throat open and free, safe to share, be, and express all that my voice is meant to vibrate out into this vast and mysterious world. I felt the silence leave my body. I felt the shame and guilt swept out of me and carried down the river to be transformed into something potent and magical. A sister approached and asked if she could join me. We laughed as I slid about on the rocks as if I were a mermaid. I felt like one too, hanging effortlessly upon a vine, secure and connected to a tree above. Eyes closed, birds singing one by one, my sisters joined us in the water, each one having the same chilly beginning as myself, giggling her way into the water. As I hung upon the vine, I glanced over and saw two sisters near the water's edge, one so lovingly and motherly massaging the mineral-rich clay into the other's back. Her face lit up with comfort as she received this message of refuge and sanctuary of sisterhood. One after another, I witnessed women adorning the lush green trees with their clothing, most finding themselves stopping for a scrub at nature's river spa. Each wild woman unleashed, I could see their fires of freedom unlocking, light breathing through the cracks of experiences, each woman glowing with delight in her very own divine existence. Completely naked in the mother of the waters, our wombs, hearts, and bodies began to be cleansed, nourished, and freed from the stories of the past. In that moment, I too invited myself back home. We all, as goddesses alive and in the flesh, began taking back our power and embracing the purity embodiment of the divine within. A symphony created by our hands in the water, each woman invited to partake in her own ceremony of purification. We took turns swaying from the vines. I slid around the rocks, sometimes finding the perfect rock to rest my very pure and empowered pussy. I enjoyed sticking my hand in the water, speaking the name of a loved one and retrieving a rock for them. It was so fun to slide up to my sister Sarah, dropping the rocks on the shore as she continued to welcome the women into the water with clay scrubs. I had the opportunity to photograph a few of these gorgeous goddesses in their full embodied flesh. I again witnessed women fully embracing their most potent and authentic selves, wild and free, completely liberated of old stories and owning the goddess babes they are at the core. I witnessed Mother Gaia moving through my sisters with every snapped photo. Women journeying through the jungle, reclaiming their sovereignty, not alone, but together. In time, we all packed our things and embarked on the very uphill, slippery jungle journey back to where we came from. Leaving my offering flower, my candle, and the stories of my past, I placed the other flower in my pocket, as I would most definitely need all 4 limbs for the hike back. I should add that during this trip, we were regularly reminded of the wild animal inside. The jungle journey certainly revealed this as truth. I had to very consciously remind my legs that they were not jello. They were, in fact, land legs, and they needed to do their part in getting me back home. Stopping to catch my breath several times, lots of fucks and other sounds birthed along the way, not to mention my backpack now filled with river stones. As we continued, those of us in the back needed a little encouragement. I was reminded of the moments before birth when entering the transition phase. Those moments just before a little babe's head appears out of the vagina portal and out into the world. The moments where a mother feels like she'd rather give up instead of continue. In my experience, it was always a sound from a midwife or an encouraging few words from my soul sister Nina that got me through this stage. With my first son, as I proclaimed I didn't want to do this anymore, my incredible midwife Harmony made a simple sound. She witnessed me, saw me, and through this simple seeing, I allowed birth to happen through me. Soft whispers of almost there. Remember your center, spoken by the cosmic midwife Shivani and the softest voice of my great-grandmothers. Or we can see his head. Touch and feel for yourself. That's a fucking defining moment. Reaching down between my legs, feeling the hard yet yielding head of a being separate from myself, created in the oneness of my body. 4 children, and each time I was equally shocked by this experience. Here in the jungle, we all became midwives and doulas for one another on the path, encouraging one another along the way, reuniting in sisterhood, stopping to pee or shallow attempts to breathe, reminding one another between panting breaths we were almost there, initiating ourselves into sisterhood and community with every misstep, challenge, spoken words of soulful stories, and moments of silence along the way. We provided the space for one another to be reborn. A wild woman, jungle woman, free to be alive and in the fullest possible expression of the here and now. I wasn't sure how much further and was encouraging the sister in front of me, and most certainly myself. Moments later, we came to the top of the hill, and I heard her shout, "I see it." That was it. Home again. Home to this physical place for so many of us far from home. And yet, home to the very alive, embodied, divine presence of our individual souls, and further into the incarnation of our collective soul. A trite and true introvert, others headed to the pool. I headed to my room to remove the flower from my pocket and take it all in. Lunch on the schedule in 30 minutes. I always need serious decompression and alone time after pretty much any activity ever. Unzipping my jacket pocket, I pulled out the flower and saw it arrive safely. I was so excited for myself. Fuck, I did it. I kept my promise to my tiny, oh so sensuous and sexual vagina. I kept her safe throughout my journey to and from the river, never once even letting her fall to the ground. Never once giving up on her, never for a moment or thought that I would just forget it and leave her behind. This journey to the river becoming a total metaphor of trust and love for myself, my heart, the soul within me, and the sovereign freedom of my body and my pussy. You may think the story ends there, but you know in your heart it does not. Many women showered, pooled, and changed clothes. I felt so purified and rich, I wanted to stay in my muddy jungle attire just a little longer. After lunch, I returned to my room. First, stopping to use the restroom, serendipitously, I realized my own healing, cleansing blood has now arrived, 5 days early, a very rare occasion for me. I definitely thought I would be making it all the way through this trip before she arrived. What a gift. My very own waters have come to the jungle to release and cleanse, flowing and free from these frequencies that have kept me locked in caves, restricted, constrained in silence, perhaps for centuries. My very own waters washing away the burdens my mother has carried, the burdens of all the mothers before me, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, cleansed and freed from the pain and shame they have carried upon their shoulders, deep within the roots of their bodies. I literally could not believe it. This is the shit you cannot even make up. This is the shit that is the truth, the embodied, sacred truth. The truth of gifts, the truth of the gifts of choosing to follow the call, choosing to follow the heart, choosing to explore the very alive, beating and breathing landscape that lives inside each and every one of us.